We're joined by Susanta Mazumdar, Portfolio Manager at Tribeca Asia Infrastructure Fund. Susanta, thank you.
Thank you.
When people look at infrastructure, they think roads, they think rail, they think port. But your fund looks more closely at infrastructure, particularly in certain areas. Energy transformation being a key one. Why is that such a focus, particularly here in Asia?
Sure. The way we look at infrastructure is like core and core plus. So within core and core plus, we try to look at the underlying demand drivers for many of these infrastructure assets, both hard and soft assets. So when I look at the energy transition, essentially it includes the power infrastructure, and within that power, how it can decarbonize the society. Similarly, in digital infrastructure, we look at data center, fiber, etc., which is digitalizing society. So we look at the infrastructure from the demand side of point of view, and that's the way we look at what are the big themes, demand themes, which the infrastructure is going to meet for next 5, 10, 15 years.
And your focus, where are you deploying your capital?
It's an Asia fund, so we deploy Asia Pacific, starting from China, India, all the way to Australia, New Zealand. It's across 12 countries in Asia.
And in terms of specifics, where are the areas? Are you looking geothermal, gas?
So I think energy transition is a very large area. We believe that in China, India being some of the largest carbon emitters, the first step for them is going to be move away from coal to something like gas as a transition fuel. In addition to that, I think nuclear and as well as renewable are going to fulfill pretty important role. So we are looking at energy transition in countries like China, India towards the gas infrastructure, but then in a place like Australia, New Zealand, there are some interesting opportunities, like for example, geothermal as a baseload renewable in New Zealand, or some renewable power in Australia.
Asia itself is very broad, and there are certain areas within Asia that can be broken up into developing countries, developed countries, etc. Are you seeing the energy transition journey differ throughout Asia?
I think if we look at energy transition is an issue for almost all countries, be it developed and be it developing. And that reduction in carbon commitment is almost like equal amount in terms of percentage side. So the opportunity is both in developed market and as well as developing market. It's just the nature of opportunity, it changes in an energy transition.
Digital infrastructure is clearly something that is being expanded and invested in heavily globally. What does it look like from an Asian perspective?
I think as you know that Asia probably consume 1/3 of data. On top of that, a lot of countries are looking for a localization of the data. So the need for digital infrastructure will keep rising exponentially. But there are pockets, like there are cities, there are countries where the demand for data infrastructure is huge. Good example is Singapore, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Seoul. In South you have got Sydney, Melbourne, and possibly countries like even New Zealand can emerge as a good data center location. So I think it's pretty much across Asia. I think China demand for data center will rise probably once the chips availability is been sorted out at China level.
And in terms of the supply chain, this is where infrastructure is really at its core, linking all of those pieces together. What are you seeing from a trend point of view?
So if we're referring to the supply chain logistics, I think again this is going to be more and more complex and more local. I think the geopolitical tensions we are seeing between the large countries, we are going to see a more China plus one strategy, which means that you need some more complex supply solutions, at the same time localized warehouses. So hence the demand for supply chain infrastructure warehouse, I think, will rising, because Asia is still the largest manufacturing base for the entire world, and it is also the largest exporter of manufactured goods, and hence the supply chain infrastructure has to evolve, get more complex with some localized warehouse solutions.
A well-established fund with a clear Asian focus, what does the future look like?
I think Asia will still continue to grow, probably at a faster rate than the developed world. Demography is still, a good part of demography is still young, particularly countries like India, Indonesia, Philippines. But at the same time, we have got a developed markets like Australia and New Zealand, which has a very well-established regulatory network. So in a way, I think Asia has some kind of a good combination of a growth and at the same time maturity in the infrastructure. And hence, we believe that we can build a long-term income-generating portfolio which will produce dividend yield at the same time steady growth for next 10, 15 years.
Exciting times ahead for the fund. As you say, significant opportunity ahead. Susanta, thanks for your time.
Thank you.